This was called Operation Mountain Wind. In 48 hours in Iran, America burned $330 million just to extract one pilot from an Iranian mountain. They built a military base at night right in Iran. One American officer, one pistol. 48 hours in Iran, one against 1,000 Iranian guards who were combing the area. The U.S. spent $330 million on his rescue. They burned 5 planes. They built a military base right on Iranian territory in just one night, and they didn't lose a single person. This isn't a movie. This happened yesterday. If you don't know the full story yet, well, gentlemen, the next 15 minutes will change your understanding of what the American military machine is capable of. Before we start, one more request. Please hit subscribe and make sure to click the bell next to it. Why is the bell important? YouTube doesn't show videos to subscribers automatically. The algorithm decides who to show them to. And the bell is your personal algorithm switch. Only it guarantees that you'll get a notification as soon as a new episode comes out. Night over Khuzestan province in the southwest of Iran. In the sky, a 2-seater F-15. This is a Strike Eagle in the dual cockpit. Major Kevin Bradley, he's the pilot. Up front, his job is to keep the plane in the air, dodge missiles, and avoid crashing into the ground if possible. And behind him is Colonel Jason Hart. They call that role WSO, Weapons System Officer. Weapons Systems Officer. In the back, there are 4 screens at once: radar, weapons, targets, threats. The pilot is flying, WSO. In the Army, they call them WSO. The Iranian air defense system activated. The missile came from below. The plane suffered critical damage, and both of them ejected. Both survived, but landed in different places. Major Bradley was found in a few hours. He had a leg injury, but he was alive and conscious. He was evacuated before dawn, but Colonel Hart disappeared into the darkness. He only had his standard-issue pistol with him. This is where things get really interesting. Let me explain. Iran mobilized thousands of people because of this man. Colonel Hart is not just a military officer. He possesses critically important secrets. He knows the tactics for using the F-15E against specific Iranian air defense systems. This is incredibly important for them to know. He knows how Americans bypass detection systems. He knows the radio frequencies and the friend or foe identification procedures, the vulnerabilities of official aviation systems. All of this is in one person's head. On Iranian territory, with just one pistol. Now imagine what would have happened if the IRGC had found him first. A camera, Iranian state television. The colonel reads a statement about illegal aggression from a piece of paper. It's broadcast to the whole world. Then, of course, a show trial. Then negotiations for release on Iran's terms. Frozen assets, concessions, diplomatic pressure. Basically a media nightmare for a month. For Trump, who is waging this war under the banner of complete military superiority, this is a political blow you can't just brush off. So, what happened? Minute by minute, hour by hour, as they say. The first 6 hours after the ejection, Hart lands separately from the pilot. Injuries from the ejection, shoulder and ribs. Disclaimer. He starts to evade pursuit. The beacon he has with him is working, but the area is not suitable for an immediate approach. 6 hours have passed. The IRGC is mobilizing thousands of people. The Iranian authorities are offering a reward. Local tribes are joining the hunt. Hart continues moving toward a possible helicopter landing site. The 12th hour. Hart reaches the mountain ridge, the crest. He hides in a rock crevice, establishes the first brief radio contact with, let's call them, friendly forces. Reconnaissance marks the position. 18th hour, first rescue attempt. The A-10 Warthog providing cover is shot down. According to available data by a Chinese MANPADS, the A-10 pilot ejects and is safely picked up by naval assets. The operation is temporarily suspended. 24th hour, second attempt. Two HH-60W helicopters were hit by ground fire during the approach attempt. The crews are wounded, but they're returning to base. Hart survives, moves under fire, and changes position. The 30th hour. Trump, who was watching the operation in real time, orders the military to get everything that can fly into the air. A barrage of fire rains down on the Iranians pursuing Hart. A cruise missile strikes and hits. It hits the IRGC air defense positions in the operation zone. At the same time, Iran launches drones to search for Hart. They find him and try to destroy him. It's almost a direct hit. The colonel survives and moves. The 36th hour. The CIA launches disinformation. A rumor is planted among the Iranians. The pilot has already been found. He is being transported north by land. The IRGC begins to regroup. This moment is used for a decisive attack. And here it is, how it happened. The thing the whole world admires. Probably the most popular phrase at that time in all languages was, the Americans built an entire military base right on an Iranian mountain while they were looking for one person. So what happened? Two MC-130J aircraft crossed the Iranian border at extremely low altitude. On board were helicopters in disassembled form, fuel, and combat rescue teams. They found an abandoned dirt road in a mountain valley in Khuzestan province. They landed. In the dark, without lights. They assembled the helicopters. Right in enemy territory, they set up a temporary refueling point. 4 MH-6 Little Bird helicopters picked up the group and headed to the ridge where HR was hiding. The operation was planned as a quick night raid. Find, pick up, get out, 40 minutes. But the Iranian patrols responded and a fight broke out. The night ended, but the operation didn't. A daytime battle in the mountains of Iran for a mission of this kind is unprecedented. Colonel Hart has been found. A shoulder and rib injury after ejecting, but he's conscious, able to move. 48 hours alone. With only a pistol, he survived. He was brought on board, and now it's time to leave. And here's the main problem. MC-130. We're stuck. The dirt runway has turned to mud. The vehicles are stuck in mud with nothing to pull them out. The commander made the hardest decision of all, to destroy our own planes. 2 aircraft, $100 million each, up in smoke. So that no device, circuit, or system would fall into the hands of the SIR. The group has left. The security chart shows 0 losses among Americans, as I already mentioned. Now let's count what are called direct losses and expenses. For 15, Strike Eagle shot down, $90 million. 2 MC-130U Commando 2 destroyed. Each is $100 million, so $200 million total. 4 MH-6 Little Birds destroyed during withdrawal, $18 million. A-10 Warthog shot down by a Chinese manpads, $19 million. That makes a total of $330 million, 0 killed, 0 killed. Someone might ask, is one person really worth that kind of cost? That's the wrong question. The right one is what happens when you don't save him. In neither the Israeli army nor the American army is this possible. Not saving him is not an option. If you don't rescue them, it's a message to every American pilot. On any battlefield, if you get shot down, you're on your own. That's a bad signal. $330 million is the price of the signal. We don't leave our own behind. Never. Nowhere. Under no circumstances. So why is Iran losing? No matter what they tell us, Iran is losing. There is something here that is rarely spoken about openly. Iran can keep losing its officers endlessly. This doesn't change the position of those who rule the country from the shadows. The Ayatollahs don't appear on the front lines. The IRGC sacrifices people without political consequences for the regime. But for America, it's the opposite. Every captive becomes headline news. Name, family, congressman from his state, journalists at his house. Everyone demands an explanation. This isn't a weakness of the American system. It's one of its defining features. That's exactly why the operation to rescue Hart was not an exception to the rule. It was the rule. Trump said directly, This kind of raid is rarely undertaken because of the danger to people and equipment, but he gave the order. And now, thank God, here is the result. To establish an airbase, deep in enemy territory, hold it while under fire, destroy it in an organized manner, leave with a person on board, and not a single coffin. Only the United States has this level of capability today, and probably, well, I think with some reservations, Israel has it too. No one else has it. Colonel Hart is now in an American military hospital. Major Bradley is by his side. Both are alive. Both will return to their families. The principle of not leaving our own behind is not just empty words. That's what sustains the Army's combat effectiveness. A soldier who knows he won't be abandoned fights differently. He takes risks differently. He completes his mission differently. And finally, and if you found this video helpful, do one simple thing right now. Subscribe and hit the bell. There you go. And now that the events of last week are over, let's talk about Monday. Monday, April 6th, Trump's deadline. And what happens next? On April 4th, Trump wrote on Truth Social, "Remember, I gave Iran 10 days. Make a deal or open the Strait of Hormuz. Time is running out. There are 48 hours left, and hell will rain down on them." The deadline is Monday, April 6th. The strait has been blocked since February 28th. That's already 37 days. The largest disruption in oil supply in the history of the global energy sector. The Iranian military command responded immediately. General Ali Abadi called Trump's threat a helpless, nervous, unbalanced, and foolish action. And he added the simple meaning of this message, that the gates of hell will open for you personally. Scenario 1. Diplomacy. Well, many journalists say that this is the most likely scenario right now. That is, Pakistan, Turkey, and Egypt are actively mediating. So they're trying to get us back to the negotiating table in Pakistan. Vice President Vance is not holding direct talks, but he is communicating with the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament, Ghalibaf. Well, so to speak, and so on. In addition, the Iranian foreign minister signaled on Saturday that Tehran is ready for negotiations. This was on CBS News. The second option is massive airstrikes on the energy sector. The third option is the capture of Kark Island. This is probably the riskiest option. And the fourth is to escort the tankers. By sea, you mean, right? Well, let's say, so to speak, that's one possible option. After another 2 weeks of strikes on Iranian capabilities, send destroyers and aircraft carriers directly into the Hormuz Strait to escort the tankers. That would eliminate the need for ground operations. By the way, France is already sending 12 ships to the region, including 2 frigates, to escort the vessels. So the United Kingdom, Germany, and Italy are also working on supporting commercial shipping. They haven't really come together as a group to any particular waters, but each of the major parties is sending some ships there. Because here you'll need to transport your own goods, not just, transport and protect your own interests. And also the extension of the deadline. Of course, this is the 5th scenario. Actually, I think it's already been extended twice, right? Trump set deadlines and postponed them. That's partly why the markets aren't reacting by sending prices soaring in a panic to $200. Traders assume that Trump will back down from the conflict before the economic consequences reach an extreme level. So, as of this morning, negotiations are ongoing, but both sides are publicly taking tough positions. Lindsey Graham, for example, wrote, "After talking with Trump, I am absolutely convinced that he will use overwhelming military force against the regime if they continue to block the Hormuz Strait. So what exactly will Trump do? Personally, I think he will say that the negotiations are going great, and he will give another 48 hours for them to finish. But he won't wait and will strike Iran's energy supply on the night from Tuesday to Wednesday. Or the Israelis will be told, strike. He might strike just one area, not Kark, and say, tomorrow we'll hit everything else. If there's no response, he'll strike another one. It's possible it won't be Kark again." Israeli sources reported that the IDF is preparing to expand the list of targets to include energy facilities as soon as Trump gives the green light. So, well, what will happen then? Iran. Blackout. First in part of the country, then across the whole country, and a humanitarian catastrophe. 80% of all electricity in Iran is generated from natural gas. A strike on the power grid directly threatens the electricity supply of the entire country, as well as heating and cooking for millions of people. If the lights are turned off across the country at the same time or even in two waves, the IRGC will be busy suppressing internal unrest rather than fighting with Israel. The youth are openly against the regime. The economy has already been destroyed by sanctions. Inflation is at 40%, even more than 40%. The regime holds on by force, not by popular support. And now what will happen to the oil? $150 per barrel and maybe even higher after that. An Iranian counterstrike across the entire region. The IRGC stated that if the U.S. strikes power plants, or if Israel does, the IRGC will strike power plants in all areas with American bases, as well as energy and industrial infrastructure where there are American interests. Whether they can or not is another question, but they will try. What will stop in Iran, and immediately? Radars and air defense systems run on electricity. Command centers and communications, electricity, drone and missile manufacturing plants, electricity, uranium enrichment, centrifuges all require stable power. The banking system that finances the war will come to a halt. Fuel pumps at military bases, the internet and state television. Propaganda. It will choke or die, call it whatever you want. What will keep working? The IRGC has automatic diesel generators for critical facilities. The missiles and drones that have already been produced are in storage. There are reserves. The soldiers themselves don't need electricity. The mines in the Strait of Hormuz are already installed, so there's no need to remove them. The main issue now is timing. The first 48 to 72 hours are chaos. The army switches to generators. The week's supply of fuel for the generators is starting to run out. After a month, the military machine stalls, degrades, and comes to a halt. This is Iran's main vulnerability. The Strait of Hormuz, its trump card, is held not by electricity, but by the physical presence of ships and mines. A blackout won't automatically open the strait. A total blackout sharply reduces combat capability, but it doesn't stop the war instantly. It's a weapon of pressure and collapse. It works on the scale of weeks, not hours. Israel understands this. That's why the plan calls for strikes on all the stations at once, or in 2 or 3 waves, so that everything goes out one after another. Or maybe they'll split it into 2 waves, just in case the Iranians reconsider after the first wave. But the Kurds, Azerbaijanis, some army units and security forces that aren't part of the Army Corps, and the people themselves could get involved. This will fuel protests and possibly lead to the overthrow of the regime. But this will be a global economic blow. The conflict has already triggered the world's largest energy crisis, a severe fuel shortage, inflation, and the risk of stagflation and recession. The Philippines has declared an energy emergency. Europe is on the verge of a repeat of the 2022 crisis conclusion. A blow to Iran's energy sector is no longer just a local escalation, but a blow to the global economy. That's exactly why Trump postponed the deadline 3 times. And of course, in Iran itself, this is a humanitarian catastrophe. Hospitals. The generators will run out of fuel in 1 or 2 weeks. People will start dying. Water. The pumping stations will stop. Cities will be without water. I really think they won't touch the desalination plants, but they also need electricity. Food. Refrigerators will stop cooling. Food will rot. Not so much in your home refrigerator as in the ones in warehouses. Heating. It's April. It's bearable, but industry has come to a halt. 90 million people living in medieval conditions. Now about the military machine. The IRGC's diesel reserves will be depleted. Missile and drone production is 0. Communication between units is primitive. Maybe not carrier pigeons, but something very similar to that. Air defenses are completely breaking down. Combat capability is dropping by about 60 to 70% according to analysts. I don't even understand how they could have 40% left. Now the IRGC will be forced to divert resources to suppress internal unrest. Because there will be, the loyalty of the lower-ranking soldiers will start to waver. Why? Because they also have families without water and electricity. The propaganda no longer works. It's now silent. So, in other words, the likelihood of a coup or internal split increases sharply. Well, and what's happening in the world? Well, $150 then, already $200. Global recession. In the U.S., $67 per gallon. Trump's approval rating is falling. International pressure on the U.S. is reaching its peak. The UN, China, Russia, and Europe are demanding an immediate ceasefire. That means a humanitarian corridor is becoming almost inevitable. Well, just like they forced Israel with Gaza and so on, they're doing the same there. They were hauling something that wasn't meant for them. Hamas was receiving everything brought in there. Here, in a month. The likely outcome. I just think that the U.S. will monitor things more effectively after all than... no one will stop the U.S. from monitoring. The likely outcome in a month. Not a victory and not a defeat, but a deal under pressure from both sides. Iran physically can't continue and the U.S. politically can't continue. Well, not only because we're under pressure, but also because we have elections in November. Negotiations become the only way out for everyone. The paradox is that a total blackout speeds up the end of the war, but it comes at a huge cost, including human casualties. The possibility of a coup is growing. So judge for yourself, what would you do? Would you play this game of roulette, right? I would say this kind of Russian roulette, right? Where you don't know where the bullet is. You spin the cylinder and then put it to your temple, and you don't know where the bullet is. Let's see what Trump does. Maybe something completely different because he's Trump. Because he's Trump. Let's end here. Thank you for listening. And there's so much news that I think I'll go live again later today. Goodbye.